Jeremy, you get three sets of thumbs up on this picture. I love that.
Not sure, but that's what it says. Student central.
Good morning.
My understanding was
Oh, what did
Must
I
have
get the
been
memo with Rick?
It must have been in caucus.
Stand up.
All right,
Let's
Okay.
squeeze
There was a
together
caucus.
some. Don't be afraid of each other, please.
she'll be here.
And my sorority color is
And I
red.
printed out the list as well.
Sorry.
Cue me out when we're ready.
I know I wrote in the last one.
Okay, you guys ready? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today, on International Workers' Day, a day rooted in struggle for fair labor and human dignity, we are proud to unveil a legislative package that delivers on a promise of long overdue and much deserved to restore balance, fairness, and respect in the workplace. I'm particularly proud as a former UAW union journeyman machine repair machinist. Love that. From UAW Local 652 here in Lansing and UAW Local 653 in Pontiac. At the heart of this package is a critical reform to the Labor Management Act, a prohibition on the use of replacement workers during labor disputes. When workers make difficult decisions to strike, they are exercising a fundamental right. the right to collectively bargain, the right to withhold labor when negotiations break down, the right to stand up for fair wages, safe working conditions, and just respect on the job. But that right is undermined when employers can simply replace striking workers with a temporary or permanent workforce, effectively punishing those who speak up. It shifts the power too far in one direction, and it chills the very spirit of collective action. With this bill, we put an end to that practice. By banning replacement workers during strikes or lockouts, we are reaffirming that labor rights are not second tier rights. They are essential to a healthy democracy and a fair economy. This reform doesn't just support unions, it supports working families. It recognized that justice at work is a pillar of justice in our society, and it honors the legacy of generations of labor activists who marched, organized, and sacrificed for the rights we now have. This International Workers' Day, we don't just commemorate history, we make history. And with this legislation, we take bold steps forward for workers' rights in this country. And now I will introduce to you James Jewell, Trustee Chair of UAW Local 228. James.
Very much. Is this angle working? There we go. Hello, everyone. My name is James Jewell. My friends, family, and UAW brothers and sisters call me JJ. I come out of UAW Region 1, Local 228, which is the Ford Sterling Axle plant, where I've been a proud union member, activist, and elected leader in various capacities since 2012. My region and my local union both actively and vigorously organize work sites in our area. Between UAW Region 1 and our sister Region 1A, there have been over 12 companies that have held captive audience meetings for workers organizing since 2023. One example, Wabasto, an auto supplier in Southeast Michigan, spent $1.2 million alone in 2024 on union busting in Michigan. Here we are on International Workers' Day, May Day, supporting the Putting Workers First package of bills. One of the things in that package is House Bill 1937, the Workers' Freedom Act, which would mean a ban on captive audience meetings. Captive audience meetings are a union busting tactic meant to bully and manipulate hardworking Americans and Michiganders into submission during union organizing drives. These meetings are used to give false information and anti-union rhetoric to the workers. By doing more to prevent captive audience meetings and other union busting tactics, we can start placing more of that power into the workers, into our fellow Michiganders, so that our voices can be heard and there can be dignity in the workplace. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Peak, and I've been a proud UAW member for Local 602 here in Lansing for 12 years. I want to thank the legislators that introduced this package of bills today on May Day, or International Workers' Day. As a UAW member, I've heard for many years politicians make promises to win over my votes, and it's nice to see a group of lawmakers that have the leadership to put together an agenda that puts workers first. In particular, one of the bills I want to talk about is one that addresses just cause. For far too long, at-will employment has created unequal balance of power between the employers and their employees. This unequal balance causes uncertainty in the workplace. At-will causes workers to live in fear that they can be terminated for no reason at all. Requiring employers to have a just cause before firing will allow workers to work without fear of an unjust or arbitrary or capricious termination. This is a protection that I've had in my contract with my employer the last 12 years I've been there. And this is something I strongly believe that all workers should have, because we're all in this together. And an injury to one is an injury to all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, JJ and Jason. Thank you to everyone for being here today. As we do introduce this Putting Workers First package on International Workers' Day on May Day, to make sure that we are doing the work to actually put workers and working families first and prioritize the needs that we know folks have right now, as opposed to a lot of the things that unfortunately our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are focusing on, which won't do nothing to lower costs or help working families. And so I really appreciate you all being here on this important day. It's an international day of solidarity and a reminder that every worker deserves dignity, stability, and fairness. I'm a proud sponsor of a critical bill in this package that protects one of the most basic needs of any worker, which is job security. And Jason just spoke to this. I'm just to talk a little bit more about it, but that's the Just Cause bill. And Just Cause standard for terminations means that after a reasonable probationary period, no employer can fire a worker without a legitimate and documented reason. It's not radical, it's common sense, and it's already the law in the state of Montana, which for decades, both businesses and workers have thrived under a fair system that values transparency and accountability. Unfortunately, right now in most of the country, workers can be fired without warning, without reason, and without recourse, even after years of loyal service. And we've all heard horror stories of this in our own communities, and unfortunately, many folks and their own families have been impacted by these practices. And during this time right now of unprecedented uncertainty, this bill is aimed at providing much needed stability to hardworking Michiganders and to their families. We've all seen what's happened at the federal level with our federal workers being laid off without any warning, without any recourse. We want to make sure that we have protection here in Michigan for workers and working families so that they don't have to suffer a similar fate. Our at-will system leaves people in a constant state of insecurity. It allows discrimination and retaliation to hide behind the excuse of no reason at all. With this bill, and I want to thank one of our former reps who's in the room today, Rep. Robbie, for his previous work and previous sessions on this, we work to change that. We say to workers, if you are doing your job and following the rules, you deserve protection from arbitrary dismissal. We say to employers, set clear expectations, follow due process, and treat your workforce with the respect that they've earned and deserve. This legislation ensures fairness, it builds trust, and it aligns workplace rights with our values as a democratic society. On this International Workers' Day, on this May Day, we take a stand for justice, not just in theory, but in action. And with Just Cause, we're putting power and stability back into the hands of hardworking people. Thank you again for being here, and I'd like to bring up another rep, member of our caucus, of the Labor Caucus, who's a fierce fighter for the rights of working people, Representative Joey Andrews.
Thank you, Representative Weiss. Representative Joey Andrews, really proud to be a part of this package today. Since I got to the legislature, we've been fighting to get a lot of these protections in place. And I think we've seen, especially over the last 5 years since the pandemic, how unbalanced the scales have been in favor of bosses and corporate CEOs against workers. We learned acutely during the pandemic that many bosses were fine letting their employees get sick and die on the shop floor if it meant extracting a little bit more profit, even under those times. And my bill in the package would restore PLA rights to local communities. We do a lot in this package, I think, to restore local control that was stripped away about 10 years ago when the act we affectionately call the Death Star was passed and made it so local communities could no longer set their own wages, could no longer set paid family and sick leave, and also couldn't set labor standards for their hiring practices within their municipality. And what that means is that contractors are allowed to undercut labor when they bid on a project. So if they're trying to cut costs and make sure that they win the low bid, easiest thing to do is underpay their workforce. And so what we want to do here is we want to make sure that communities have the ability to take that out of the process, set minimum standards for wages, set minimum standards for our workforce and how the job is going to be conducted, so that we're negotiating not over how much we're paying our workers, but other more material costs on a job. And I can say, as somebody who represents a border community, we get flooded all the time with bids from Indiana. Contractors coming up, paying substandard wages, skirting Michigan employment laws, and they win bids because they can do that in Indiana. And so we need to strengthen our laws here in Michigan to protect our workforce, make sure our workers are getting these jobs and that they're protected on those jobs and being paid fairly. With that, I will pass it back to Representative Carter.
Thank you, Joey. As you can see, we're very passionate about protecting workers and workers' rights and working families. So now we're going to open it up to everyone if you have questions. Okay, hearing none.